All right. Today I'll be trading, building my bias and following my system, taking those trades, and then building my personal brand and my body.
There's by becoming rich. Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
Wake up every.
And price, after a strong downwards move, reacted all the way up to 72. Come back for first retest. Buyers show up again. Sellers fail to push down through it. Price reverses, comes back to first resistance. Can't hold it. Up we go. 70k. I guess done now. Nothing really here worth entering. We would need to get closer to 70 for a retest. But the move so far has failed to follow through, which is normal as well, because we're going into tomorrow and we have the monthly options expiry. And I mentioned it yesterday that 62 and 70 are the extremes. And so on Tuesday we went to 62.5 and price held. So that 62k level, which is a big strike, held. We were trading right around 65. And I mentioned that because it was a predominantly puts. If we stay above 65, you can see price pushing higher. Nothing stopped it in between. You get to 70, big level. There's actually more puts than calls. There could be reason for that to get above, but I don't think so. I think that is the move. That's it done now. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. is the expiry, and that's a big one. It's monthly expiry. It's 8 billion notional, and I think that's where we're going to stay now. I don't think price is going to get above 70 before then. Anything's possible, but I would suspect after the move we've just seen. Also, I'm going to have to rant. So much retarded stuff online about Jane Street manipulating Bitcoin. People don't even do like the most basic. Everyone here should be able to do it anyway, but there's one really dumb thing. It's two things. Number one, is the price of Bitcoin suppressed? Do people drive the price of Bitcoin down using derivatives? Does Bitcoin's price get affected by paper Bitcoin, options, derivatives, everything else? Absolutely, 100%. Of course it does. Same thing happens to gold, same thing happens to silver. These are not conspiracy theories, these are real. This is very real. Bitcoin is fixed supply, but you can have unlimited derivatives, which can affect price in the short term. Why do you think whenever the 10th of October crash happened that you have this massive, open interest liquidation? What is that? That's not spot. That's not fucking organic spot selling, is it? But the really dumb thing is this idea that because Jane Street have been named in a lawsuit about Luna, which they didn't fucking cause either. Just it's super low IQ. It tells you where we're at. People are looking for something to blame, a boogeyman. And so people are saying, oh, Jane Street were caught dumping UST, so Luna's shitty stablecoin that was already depegging and was going to fucking zero anyway. And they started to dump it after the Luna Foundation had been dumping. So Jane Street dumped 80 million or 100 million or whatever after the Luna Foundation had dumped like $500 million in the days leading up to that they somehow caused the death spiral of Luna. No, the death spiral of Luna was inevitable. Otherwise it would not have death spiraled. You try and do that to something that's legit and it won't death spiral. So of course people just want to make an excuse, paint somebody as the bad guy, so they can excuse themselves. And it's like it's all getting pushed by Zero Hedge, this Twitter account, who is not a fucking Zero Hedge is not the fucking place to go for objective analysis or news or even truth whatsoever at all. If you follow them for long enough, you'll know it's just total doom or porn. And they've been right about a couple of things because they're pretty hot on gold and silver. And so then gold and silver is massive here and it looks like Zero Hedge is always right. No. Nope. A bit like Robert Kiyosaki, except more legit because they're like a pseudo news site, you know. Anyway, point is they're spreading all these theories about like 10 a.m. dump, but at 10 a.m. and I've seen this unironically from people that are supposed to be traders saying that, and I'm not exaggerating, saying that every day at 10 a.m. New York time, so let's go into New York time, every day at 10 a.m. just after New York Open, Monday to Friday obviously, Jane Street are dumping at 10 a.m. They are dumping the market at the exact same time, algorithmically, at exactly 10 a.m. every day, and have done that every day since, some of them say since November, some of them say since all of last year. They just make up different things. And so you just go in and very quickly take a look at it, and you'll see that it's total nonsense. Because number one, it's such an easy theory to spread for like low IQ people, or just ignorant people. Like, sometimes people are just want an excuse for why their Bitcoin's down 50%, instead of saying, I should learn about price action, I should learn about maybe taking some profit, I should learn about not panic selling, maybe get better at trading, or take accountability for my own actions. They said, fuck all that. I'm just going to blame Jane Street. Cool. So apparently at 10 a.m. every day, they dump the market. There's 10 a.m. Doesn't look like much. In fact, market didn't go down. The reason why this is so convenient as well is because that's 30 minutes after New York Open. If you were saying it was 10 a.m. UTC, so in the morning, like the London session, like way before the highest volume time of day, the most liquid time of day, the most active session, the New York session, you're like, yeah, well, that'd be more impactful. But it's not, is it? So what they're saying is that when Bitcoin, just run this through your bullshit filter. If you believe this stuff, you deserve to lose. Because there is 100% absolutely manipulation in markets, and there is, and Bitcoin's price is, both pumped higher and then suppressed more by the addition of leveraged derivatives. But it goes both ways. Why did we have the crash in the 10th of October? Why was that crash so big? If not for the fact that Bitcoin attracted a lot of fucking leverage, clearly, at the highs, enough for it to drop 20% in a single day and wipe out tens of billions of positions. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say that the manipulation is only the bad guys to the downside. Nope. There's just as much manipulation to bump stuff higher than there is to send it lower. It's all about direction. When you see open interest building and options volumes at all-time high and CME futures at all-time high, open interest whenever prices went up, and obviously price higher, it's like, oh no, that's all good, that's all organic, that's where Bitcoin's meant to go. No, it's not. It goes up and will go up over time because that's what Bitcoin's going to do, because it's fixed supply. It's a hard asset. But the nature of it is it goes up a little bit, then it goes up a lot, then it attracts a lot of people coming in trying to chase it. And just because they're dumb enough to over leverage and chase things does not mean that it's being manipulated when it stops going up. It's the fucking complete opposite. You won't hear anybody who bought Bitcoin at 17, at 25, at 30, at 35, at 40, you won't hear any of them crying manipulation. The manipulation cries are coming from people who bought, probably with leverage, or in FOMO, above 100k, or significantly above where it is now. That's a fact, it always is, it always has been, because the same people said it was manipulated last cycle. Said, oh, it's manipulated because Grayscale, GBTC, all this pumped up leverage, all this additional, and that's why it's gone down so much, and you know, Luna collapsing, and 3 Arrows Capital collapsing, and the crypto credit markets collapsing, and then FTX collapsing, who were doing legit fraud. But you know what they were doing? They were selling Bitcoin that customers put on the exchange to pump Solana. Fact. That's how Solana did this. That was driven by FTX and Alameda Research, hedge fund, attached to FTX, the market makers of their own exchange. So they were like playing on God mode. They could see everyone's positions. They were taking custom, you deposited Bitcoin on FTX. They were taking that and market selling it and buying Solana. Pump up the price of Solana because they had shitloads of Solana. Because they were early investors. Backed it heavily. And the whole ecosystem. Nobody complained there, did they? Everyone complained here. Oh, FTX, fucking scammers. The only reason it went to 250 is because of excess leverage, literal fraud and crime, and then the momentum that carries it there. So, pick your fucking poison. Markets, and whether it's done on purpose or not, really it's not even, because it's just human nature. Market cycles haven't changed. Back in the days before the S&P, before the stock market was regulated, all the way back in the early 1900s, before the crash of 1929, what do you have? You had the stock market looking like a shitcoin. Insider trading was not illegal at this time. If you've read Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, the book by Jesse Livermore, you know this. You had this. It was the famous 1929 crash, leading to the Great Depression, leading to the creation of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, who now regulate everything except commodities, every security, so stocks. And now also the argument about, is crypto a security? Bitcoin isn't, it's been classed as a commodity. But all the shit last year, remember, the year before Trump won, Gary Gensler attacking crypto. Who's the head of? SEC. Pre-regulation, stock market led to bubbles and fraud and manipulation and insider trading, and it went up shitloads. And then it crashed, and when it crashed, they blamed the short sellers. That's always what happens. Whenever you see these major market crashes and depression, one of the first things that happens is they scapegoat the short sellers, and they actually, in many cases, ban short selling, which is retarded, because how a market functions is you need to have speculators on both sides. If you ban short selling, it's like the most anti-capitalist thing you can do. You're making a closed market. You're making it like Chinese stock market. That's why nobody invests in China, because they do in other areas, but in the stock market, no, it's not an open economy. It's a closed economy. If you want to have any kind of hold on to any kind of belief that the markets are somehow fair, which fair would be this. This would actually arguably be more fair. Just like crypto, this is what people said. Back in the Wild West days of crypto, now you see it getting a lot of attention in Washington and other countries and governments, and they're regulating it, and it's becoming accepted and it's institutionalized, blah blah. But everybody wants the 100x pumps. Well, the 100x pumps tend to come whenever it's pre-regulation, and when it's much offshore exchanges, and it's much more shady. So the hypocrisy is the problem. You want all the fucking upside with none of the downside. But if you understand trading, you'll know that these are unsustainable, and the reason I go here is that this is the stock market. This is the S&P 500, which now is like the gold standard. Back then, it was brand new on a relative basis. The bigger the Dow Jones would have been the industrial average. The Dow Jones would have been more of the main thing back then, because it was an industrialized economy. This S&P became much more of the gold standard over the decades that followed. But that's what happened back then, and they institute regulations. And then the whole market changed. You go into a 20-year, 30-year bear market and a depression economically. And they blamed the short sellers, even though it was insider upside manipulation that sent it so high. And then on the downside, that's just you look at this as a trade, it's mean reversion. Yeah. This whole pump was unsustainable. So when it breaks and fails, what's it do? Reverts back, comes back, consolidates, holds, and it goes higher. It's like, was this also manipulation here? 1960, 1961, was that crash? Where's all ban the short sellers? No. So it's dumb. It's really dumb. And it's always one-sided. So anyway, this 10 a.m. thing, I'm not going to go through it. You can just go through it. You can go through and look at 10 a.m. New York time on any of these days, especially in November, as I said, even and when it was going down. You know what this was? You saw it from the Coinbase negative premium. The selling on this move down on Bitcoin was very much led by US markets. So when's it going to happen? In New York session, most days, which is 9:30 a.m. What happens here? 9:30, 9:45, it drops, and then 10, it keeps dropping. Is that Jane Street? By the way, Jane Street are one market maker. They're a market maker. Their job is to be delta neutral. So if they're shorting Bitcoin, which they do, they will also be long somewhere else to remain delta neutral. They're just trying to capture either some basis trade, some spread, they're hedged. Their job isn't to manipulate Bitcoin's price, just them. They're one of many. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of market makers, and there's 5 that are as big as them. Jump is just as big as them. Citadel are bigger. Like, they're not even the biggest. To think that they could somehow manipulate, but it's just retarded. Because they're also in competition with all of the other market makers. They're all fighting for the same thing. They're all just like you're trading against someone. If you're trading long, someone has to be short on the other side of it, and it's probably going to be some other trader. Or it's a market maker. It's always one of the two. If you go long, who's on the other side of your position? Usually a market maker. And if not, it's going to be some other trader. So for you to win, someone else has to lose, vice versa. So if you've got this one market maker chunk, or Jane Street, they're manipulating Bitcoin's price. You're like, okay, well, if it's that obvious, this is why the 10 a.m. thing is bullshit. If it's that obvious that they dump at 10 a.m. every day, then their own competitors are just going to absolutely rinse them. You think of it like chess. Think of it like poker. You're going to telegraph. You're going to show your cards. You're going to telegraph your next move. It should be so easy to counter trade. So no, it's fucking dumb. But it's good slop for normies. Because they're like, well, if I go and I... Good slop for normies. Because like, well, if I go and I did this last night, I looked through 20 or 30 examples. It's 50-50 or close to it. We take like the 15-minute candle at 10 a.m. Okay? Which is this one, because you're saying they're dumping at 10 a.m. There's 10 a.m. That's a flat candle. You can count that as technically red, but it dumped off the open, pumped in. 10 a.m. no move. 10:15 no move. After 10:30 price starts time. But this is supposed to be 10 a.m. They don't, and they dumped the market 10 a.m. Well, it didn't go down to 10:30, 11, and then it went down. So what they were, it was just all them. This is just Jane Street. No, it's meant to be 10 a.m. Is this theory? And it's nonsense, because in the New York session, if you were going to manipulate the price of Bitcoin, you would not wait until the most liquid part of the day. You would not wait until the liquidity is highest and the volume is highest and the market is most active. It's basic. It's super obvious. If you are trying to affect the price, this is the thing. Will Jane Street short or sell a lot more in the New York session than they would pre or post? Yes, because there's more volume. All that tells you is, if they're shorting, it just means there's a lot more people going long because someone's on the other side. But if they're selling, someone's buying off because they're a market maker. That's the point. If you wanted to cause maximum price impact, you would do it not during the New York session. You would do it pre or post, because it's less liquid. That's when you can have much more of an impact. You want to send the market much lower, you do it out of hours. And that is what was happening. What was this? 11:30, massive spike of volume. Bitcoin drops significantly. Is that? No, it's not 10 a.m. It said it's 10 a.m. Okay, well, here we go. 10 a.m. Price is rising. Slight pullback because candles can be red or green. And it goes a bit higher. And then Friday sideways. So on and so on. Go into the next week. Monday. 9:45, 10 a.m. Don't move that. Pushes up, drops down, mostly flat. New York session goes lower. Yeah, because you could see all through November, all through December, most of December, you had Bitcoin. That was the heavy end of year ETF outflows. Anytime people try to pin this down to one thing, like it was Jane Street dumping at 10 a.m. October, November, December, or was it the multiple billions of persistent, endless outflows on ETFs all the way through, right up until December, and even through December, even into the start of this year? Well, really, December is when it peaked. But no, it's this one market maker that's manipulating price. It's retarded. So, slop noise. Also, the real way of telling this, first of all, I look at order flow and price, and I covered this for weeks. Coinbase Premium was super negative. We've gone over this over and over and over. Seen this all the way. I laid it out on Beyond Bitcoin and almost every day out. So you could see where the selling pressure was coming from. It was from Coinbase. You could see pretty clearly, but all the way down January. You could see all the way down here. And that from October after the crash, once you get into November, premium goes negative. You see the majority of that is driven by either a lack of demand on Coinbase, which makes it negative, or also some selling and overwhelming supply on it. That's what was a big driver of the downturn. And you see consistently high volume of those sessions. You see consistently selling not being met with demand. It's like this way of trying to explain why the downtrend is going down. It's like, because the only person buying is fucking Saylor, as everybody else realizes it's not an uptrend. Like literally, Saylor will keep buying with MicroStrategy buys and they don't get any dollars. They just buy. That's their game. And when you have price falling, as a price action trader, you would say, I'm not going on this. I'm not going against the trend. And believe it or not, most people also do that. Most smart traders and investors would also say that. Like, oh, Bitcoin is fantastic when it goes up with momentum. It's like the best asset when it's got that upwards momentum. But also, there's two sides to this coin, this Bitcoin. And when it goes down, you don't want to be long. It's really simple. So you then get price going down, which creates negative sentiment, also unlocks more sellers who realize, shit, Bitcoin's down 25, 30, 35%. Yeah, well, that's no longer an uptrend, and it could go a lot more. I've seen what Bitcoin did before, so I'm going to sell, or I'm certainly not going to buy. Maybe I'll buy back 100, maybe 110, but I'm waiting for price to do the back in. So you have reasons for people to sell, you have no reason for people to buy, which creates lack of demand, and any little bit of supply has more of an impact. Same thing happens on the upside. When Trump won the election and it broke out above 75 and hit 80, just the reason why it just flew so easily up to 99, that's really where it stopped initially, because that's what people say. Why did it just shoot from 80 to 99 in the space of a week and a half? Because you've gone through 8 months of it trying to be bearish. You tried to go from 70 to 50, tried to break down, couldn't. 8 months consolidation, building. Then a big catalyst. The Bitcoin president wins the election. This was not overwhelming demand. This was obviously demand, people buying, it's breakout. But more than anything, people are like, why would I sell 80? Why would I sell 84? Why would I sell 85? Why would I sell Bitcoin after it's just gone through all this? And it's at the big catalyst, and it's broken down its momentum. So as much as it looks bullish, it's also a lack of supply. Sellers don't want to sell because it's rising. And you're on the right side of it if you're long. So you wait and see. Then it really starts to slow down to 100. Okay, now we can see when it gets to 100, it's get sold into. 100 sold into. Then what happens? Sellers start to show up more. You get a correction. It's just the nature of how it goes. And the last thing on this, because it's just fucking such slop. If you watch the order books, or you watch price, or you watch these sessions, you'll know that. First of all, you can't pin it down to be at one. If they were doing this, and there are 100%, this happens all the time. Spoofing happens all the time. You see this when we talk about Binance, and you can see the heavy walls of either supply or demand, where they're trying to keep price down to accumulate more, or they're trying to push price lower. You see an open interest rise as price is falling. They're trying to push it through certain levels to trigger liquidations. And this is all real, but it's not an exact science. You can't know the intent. This is like what spoofing is. Spoofing is placing orders on the order books and then not filling them. So you'll make it look like. So you might see like, oh, there's this big wall. If you look at the order book, there's this big wall of supply. Binance, there's like 1,000 BTC here that's just showed up. Like, oh, well, that means like no point buying then because there's 1,000 Bitcoin wall to get through, and that's with the intention of pushing price lower. But is that because they want price lower, or is it because they want to keep price down so people don't buy it up through there so they can actually accumulate more before it goes up? The thing is, nobody knows where it's exactly going. That's the problem with this shit about blaming it on one person or one company or whatever. It just makes good stories, good slop headlines. It gets me to rant for 15 minutes on it, but it had to be done. It's nonsense because it won't help you to trade. It's just the exact same as the reasons, like the rant I did on Beyond Bitcoin after we crashed here. After we crashed there, I was like, wait till you see now, you get all the post-mortem headlines and articles about here's why it happened, reasons. Don't be shit, because price told you way before that what to do. And equally, all this shit now, all these posts on Twitter are like 10 a.m. Jane Street are dumping Bitcoin at 10 a.m., 10 a.m., 10 a.m. Like fucking sheep, just parroting the same thing and saying this has been going on for, some of them saying it's been on for a year. So, oh, well, sorry, I missed your posts last year about it. I missed your posts even a week ago about it. Why is it only now, after one big news site claims that there's this 10 a.m. fix? Why is it then? Why is it only now that you're like writing a big article? You're like, oh, 10 a.m. See, and here's the proof. The proof's what? You go in and zoom in and hand pick a couple of 10 a.m. dumps. Go to the 10 a.m. count. New York time. For the last year. Pick every single one of them in New York session. Monday to Friday, when the markets are open. And you'll see there's 50-50 whether 10 a.m. produces a down move or an up move. Because it's just random chance. And if it was anything different, there'll be posts out there. There'll be someone would have done the analysis and said months ago, and they'd be retweeting and they'd be getting loads of retweets, which they're not doing. If somebody had done it, they're like, I think there's manipulation here happening at exactly 10 a.m. Their post would have been ignored months ago because people were like, fuck off, stop voting it, we're going to the moon. But when there's this big narrative about the 10 a.m. fix, then surely their post should be blown up. Like, I spotted this back in June or July or August. Nope. Nobody gives a shit. That's what they're saying. Said that some of them said this has been going on for over a year. Some say it's been going on since the ETFs launched, January 24. Okay, so it didn't stop it going from 70 to 50 to 110 to 75 to 125. So you didn't care then. Of course it's going up. It's always this backwards looking, bag holder bias nonsense. Shite. Stocks. They're being manipulated as well. Manipulation to keep it sideways. Or it's just known as a range. I say everything it's the laziest excuse in markets. It just screams I can't trade when you call manipulation. It just screams it. Because you can take the most manipulated things ever, which have been clearly manipulated, and they look like nice trends, especially to the upside. You look at the fact that Sui has no adoption. It is a VC chain, 100%, meaning it's being pumped up by VCs who've got early investing in seed rounds from way back in 2021, 2022, and they launch in 2023, then they get their tokens vested a year later, and then the tokens are still invested, and they want to pump it during the bull market when conditions are good by creating a narrative around why it's so great. And everybody knows that price leads narrative. So you can go and write off the articles you want about how Sui's technology is superior, the blockchain is lightning fast, and all the devs love using Sui, and nobody will give a solitary fuck if price is at 95 cents. Nobody cares about the tech when it looks like this. They're saying, why is Sui down 80%? So what you do is you send it higher. It's very easy to do in these low cap or lower cap, far less liquid, low float, high fully diluted value. So the amount of circulating tokens is very low because most are locked up. And then you have derivatives markets as well, where you can add massive leverage, and they pump it, pump it, pump it. And then when Sui's up here, because price leads narrative, then everyone talks about, oh, well, Sui must be great because of XYZ. And the same thing happened with Injective in 2023. It's over and over. This was Jump, another bigger than Jane Street, Jump trading. Chicago, one of the biggest market makers in the world in TradFi. This was all them. This is Jump. Jump were in crypto for a long time. They've sort of exited. They were in around the Luna stuff as well. They were Injective. That's well known. That was known ahead of time. No one cared when Injective was pumping. And even though it did literally, and I said this at the time back on Alt Edge, it literally did the same thing. Pump it into a failed breakout, into a forever bear market. Pump it into a failed breakout, and whenever this was breaking down here, it was just all this code. Like, no, it's coming back. It's like, why would it be coming back? Nobody uses Injective. It's a forever bear market. Nobody uses it. Nobody ever did. Just use your logic. Do you even know what Injective does? Did you ever have a wallet on Sui? Did you ever connect to the Sui blockchain? Did you ever transfer a token? Did you ever use a DEX? Did you ever do anything on Sui? No, of course you didn't. This is why meme coins were so popular, because at least people are like, well, I don't need to use Pepe, do I? It's just Pepe. But we know how that went. That had its time and it's gone. But like, these things had to pretend that they were something. They're not. So no one complains about the manipulation when it goes up, only when it goes down. You could just get good at relative strength and price action. And avoid everything when it's going down. And when we start to go up, look for that relative strength. You could see this very clearly on Sui as it was coming into September, October of 24. Yeah, it's not super bullish yet, but compared to the rest of the market, it was much stronger off the lows than anything else. Okay, so if anything's going to go up, seems like Sui's got some momentum. And you didn't even have to get in there. This is all like obviously in hindsight. You don't have to get in there or even here. But at this point, you're like, okay, well, if this is not a breakout, if this is not an uptrend, what is it? And you don't need to know Sui's VCJ and they're pumping it to get their bags higher so they can dump. You just need to know that uptrends are uptrends, and I follow the trend until it ends. People want to make things way more complicated than it needs to be. It's also why when these things start to break, like Sui broke in January of 25, at that point you're like, this is fucked. It's like on every all day, just like Sui was popular at the time and kept getting requests. Like, well, there's not much I can say because at this point, like here, it has to make new highs to invalidate this big reversal. So it literally has to go to 540. It's like it didn't. And it hangs around and pumps and holds and holds and holds and holds. Slow. Because the way down is much slower. It's a managed controlled decline. The way up is fast and sharp because it doesn't have long to live. These artificial pumps, they can't survive. And the momentum is the thing that gets them. They can't afford to slow down. They have to go fast. It has to go fast. The faster it goes, people don't get a chance to be better. Like it drops here. Oh, it's going to zero. Holy shit, it's up the next day. Oh, it's going out. Oh, it's up next. Oh, it's up. Once it's over, it's slow decline. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing ever changes. Stocks, crypto, all the same. The S&P and the Nasdaq are different because they're an index. So you don't look at that really so much for SPY or QQQ. Because this is a weighted index of the top 500. Q's is the tech 100. But you look at individual stocks, it's the exact same fucking thing. You think these things are going up because, what, fundamentals? Nope. Fuck no. The Magnificent Seven, I mean, half of them aren't even profit or of any kind of significant, like serious. I mean, it's fucking nonsense. They're all big companies, the biggest. They're all leaders in their respective fields or areas, but that's just a concentration bias. It's like being driven by reflexivity, which is normal, meaning the winners attract more flows and they become a bigger percentage of the market cap of, or a bigger percentage of the index. And then it gets reflexive. It means the bigger they get, the bigger they become. The bigger they get, the more flows they get passively through SPY and Qs. And then Tesla, which is like just it's a big bet on Elon and the cars and all that, the EV and everything, but it's not like some amazing company outside of the promises it makes. Meta, good in that it's got a clear monopoly in social media, the same as Google. It has done for years in search, same as Apple. It has done with hardware phones. Nvidia is just promises of the future. Nvidia is like massive. Actually, good time to pivot to Nvidia. Got earnings last night. Nvidia is massive. Nvidia keeps hitting earnings. Like once again last night, they beat expectations. And these things, this is funny though. Like surprise, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that they beat earnings. You say, well, what's the estimate about? Where does it come from? What's it set at? Why is it there? The market needs Nvidia to keep beating earnings desperately. The whole thing relies on. So, in a growing sector with growing demand and all the hype and all the attention, everything else, it should be beating expectations. That's why there's such fear that it wouldn't, but it did. Beat by 5%, beat by 3%. The fear was that what if it doesn't? Yeah, then you're cooked. But seems fine. Last night was mostly a nothing burger, like same as most of them have been. If you look back, you can see some of these with Apple, standard average series. They're mostly, they don't move the exact same. That's not the point. But none of them have really had a good reaction and follow through. So it will be interesting to see what Nvidia does. So Apple had kind of whipsaw around earnings and then sold off for a couple of days and then ended up going much higher. Meta was like the opposite. Meta was expected to probably not do so well because others had reported already, and then it had this rip high. Holy shit, that's massive! But that was it. Right off the earnings, peaked. That was the people top. Died only system.
Alright, I'm done. I'm not gonna touch this trade longer. Like we've secured our profits pretty much. We shifted into a neutral state. Okay, guys, that is the end of my streaming session. I'm going to make a video about how I was able to capture 2500 in less than like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But as you can see, the market's still going. It's still going. So if I am able to hold my runners correctly, especially on the funded account, man, March is looking very well. March is looking up. I'm able to follow my system, follow my process. And days like these just reassure me that I'm on the right path and I have the right system going in terms of life. And I'm gonna do a market video, but like how I was able to achieve this and like what I was seeing in pre-market. So yeah, that's it for me today.